Hey witch friends, how are you all? I'm doing really well. Sorry it's been a while since I last made a video. I've been quite busy, been doing a lot of stuff, been trying to do a lot of self-study and all kinds of stuff. And anyway, I've been meaning to make this video for a couple of weeks now. I'm going to do a review on the Wildwood Tarot deck. I got it for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and it's partly why I've not made a video in so long, because I wanted to kind of, get used to this deck a little bit and, have a play with it and look through it and have a bit of a flick through the book and that kind of stuff. There's still a lot I need to learn about this deck. I'm just kind of going to give you a basic overview and just show you a bit about a bit of the deck and just talk about my first impressions and that kind of a thing. Cool. So first of all, it comes in a box like this, and it's like that big, so it's quite a big box. So this is a deck by Mark Ryan and John Matthews. It's illustrated by Will Worthington. Mark Ryan did a deck, I want to say 20 years ago-ish, maybe a bit more, 25 years ago, called the Greenwood Tarot. And so this is, from what I've been reading, this is kind of like a follow-up to that. I don't think you need to have had the Greenwood Tarot to use this, but if you like the system of that and how that works, you'll really like this. So this isn't really based on a traditional, I say traditional, on the most common tarot system, which is Rider-Waite-Smith. This is very much kind of its own system. It's very much based on the Wheel of the Year and I guess Celtic traditional sort of spirituality and that kind of thing. It very much draws from a lot of that. So it very much has that kind of feel to it. So if you are into a more kind of Celtic, Norse, that kind of a thing, sort of Northern European, sort of pagan spirituality, then this deck will really suit you. I think if you're into druidry in any way, this deck will probably really suit you. How much of the spirituality research is historically accurate, can't speak to that, don't know. You'll have to do your own research and stuff. I mean, I tend to take, speaking personally, I tend to take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt, just because there's a lot we don't know, and there is some stuff we do know from archaeology and research and stuff, but there's a lot of these traditions were oral, so there's a lot we don't know in terms of specifics, and nothing was written down, so we kind of have to guess. So whenever anything says, oh, it's based on or this draws from this pre-Celtic spiritual thing, which is what this deck, and I'm guessing the Greenwood deck's kind of the same, says. I always take these things with a kind of a grain of salt, and not take it to the letter necessarily, because I don't think we can, because we just don't have that knowledge. Anyway, that aside, so it's in terms of how it's laid out, there's 22 major arcana, there's 56 minors, so it's still the same kind of layout as a traditional Rider-Waite. You also get this really great book with it, this guidebook that has a big section on the Wheel of the Year, and especially how that relates to the major arcana, which is kind of that's that big come on, brain. There's a lot of there's correspondences between them. That's what I'm trying to say really badly. There's a lot of really fantastic and useful information in this book as well. Obviously, it's got detailed pages on each card, and it's got spreads and things like that. But yeah, there's really good information about the Wheel of the Year. Like when I say the Wheel of the Year, I mean like the typical Wheel of the Year with like the 8 Sabbats and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, not every. So I'm just trying to find this Wheel of the Year page. There is a page all about. There it is. So it's got that in there and how each card kind of each major Arcana card kind of relates to the points in the year. Not everybody celebrates or uses the typical Wheel of the Year, but anyway, that's kind of the system that this deck follows. It also doesn't have your typical tarot suits, so it's got, instead of having like cups and pentacles and wands and the other one, come to me in a minute. Gone right out of my head. Anyway, God, this is terrible. Anyway, it's got its own suits. So in this case, we've got vessels, stones, arrows, and bows. So I'll start by showing you some of the major Arcana. There is, in my opinion, a little bit of similarity with some of the RWS cards. So there's definitely been some inspiration drawn, I think. But it's still, still very much has its own feel to it and its own kind of system. So, so the very first card is the Wanderer, which, you can see has a resemblance to the Fool. It does have that kind of similar feeling to it, but the Wanderer is very much about you, the person going on this journey, this spiritual journey, this quest for knowledge or spirituality or what have you. There's some really beautiful cards. I'll just give you a quick sort of flick through in no particular order. For example, and then we've got like the Tree of Life. So yeah, the artwork's really beautiful. I'm a big fan of this artwork, and again, if you really like traditional kind of druidy, Celtic-y inspired art, you again will really love this deck. It's a beautiful deck. Like take the Ancestor for example. Gorgeous card. I really love it. This deck also has a really strong kind of binary masculine feminine kind of essence to it. I think it's Mark, he does talk about this in kind of his introduction in the book, and apparently it doesn't relate to like traditional gender roles, but more like energies and stuff. But it looks at things in a very kind of binary way, which is not very surprising, I guess. So if you're somebody who's non-binary, you might not enjoy that kind of aspect of it, unless you have a particular affinity with being particularly masculine or particularly feminine. And again, like, for me, I'm not non-binary, but I would say I have quite a good mix of masculine and feminine energy. I think anyway, and I'm certainly not opposed to using feminine things and masculine things, or whatever is culturally seen as masculine or feminine. I don't tend, for me personally, I don't tend to find that takes away from this deck particularly. But again, it's something to be kind of mindful of. I think the way I sort of take it is it's kind of like, the two sides of the same coin in some of these cards. So they've got like a shaman card and a seer card, and shaman's supposed to be more masculine and seer's more feminine. And I think, it's very much kind of like two different sides of the same coin. Again, how you feel about that is personal. It's up to you. And how you even feel about the use of the word shaman. Obviously, there's a whole another conversation that we could have about that, and probably will have about that at some point. There's something I would quite like to make a video on, actually, but I just need to do more research into that topic. Yeah, so that's something to be aware of. The other thing to be aware of in this deck as well is all the human characters in it are white. They're depicted as white. I'm guessing that would come from the assumption that the majority of people in Europe, and I suppose a lot of them would have been, are white. So it does come from that. Again, if that's a thing for you, this might not be the right deck for you, or if you just don't care. But I thought I'll just put it out there just so you all know, you're all aware. A lot of the characters are animals, are depicted as animals and stuff, so or have that kind of animal-human crossover. So yeah, it's kind of there's people in it, mostly white, well, pretty much all white people, and there's a lot of animals in it. So anyway, let's have a quick look at the the suits. Excuse my creaky chair. Just move myself a little bit closer. So this is the vessels. So I'll show you the court cards, and then I'll just again flick through, because otherwise this video would be about 50 million years long, and I ramble enough as it is. So that's the heron is the king. Salmon is the queen. And the knight is the eel. And the page is the otter. I love this card. This is so cute. And I love otters anyway. So as you can see, like, the artwork is just gorgeous. This obviously kind of relates to cups because there's a lot of water in this suit. I got there in the end. I'm having a funny day. There's a lot of water, obviously, you can tell in this suit. A lot, there's there's cups or vessels or things like that, with the card. So it does have that kind of association. So I suppose you could use those kind of traditional RWS elemental interpretations and associations with this deck if you wanted. It's something I will I probably will end up doing, although again, you don't have to. Like, you follow the book to the letter, if you want to, and it's something I plan on doing is mostly following this book to the letter, and then just doing my thing. I'll do the research, and then I'll put it through my own lens, which is what every human on this earth does, because that's how bias works. Anyway, that's another thing. Anyway, this is the stones. So this is the king of stones, which is the wolf. Queen of stones, which is the bear. Knight of stones, which is the horse. And the page of stones, which is the lynx. I love this with the fighting hares. So yeah, so this one, quite earthy, obviously. So I guess kind of pentacly. But like, I say this, but like, when I say, oh, it's kind of pentacly, like, that doesn't mean that, like, say the ace of stones is going to be like the ace of pentacles in terms of meaning. So if you're thinking, oh, I can just apply the RWS meanings, if you are really familiar with those, like, they are different. The meanings and the are a little different in this deck. So it's not just a straight crossover, if you see what I mean. It, like I said, it is a slightly different system, but from the bits I've read and stuff, it all does seem to be quite straightforward. Okay, so it's King of Arrows is Kingfisher. Queen of Arrows is Swan. Knight of Arrows, Hawk. Page of Arrows is the Wren. And that's the ace. So, as you can see, it's a lot of air. There's a lot of air in this deck. In this suit, so much air. So, oh god, which one is the air? I always get wands and swords mixed up for their elemental correspondences. Anyway, you'll probably know the answer to that question. I mean, this feels really airy to me because of, like, its arrows flying through the air. It makes me think of air. Okay, and then finally, is the bows. This is the suit of bows. So king is the adder. Queen is the hare. Knight is the fox. Page is the stoat. And then this is more fiery. This is very much a fiery suit. So, like, you can see in the cards there is that kind of you know, elemental sort of association to it. So yeah. So those are all the cards. A little flick through of the cards. As I said, I'm still really getting familiar with this deck. I'm still learning about it and seeing how I feel about it. I am also, like, currently studying the RWS system more in depth. So I feel like I'm kind of cramming my brain with lots of things at once. So I'm more focused on that right now. But once I've done a bit more on that, this will become my primary focus, definitely. Anyway, so overall, I really like this deck. I think it's the one sort of test reading I did with it, I enjoyed. I liked using it. I like the way it feels. I like the way it shuffles. The card stock, really quickly, like, is not too thick, not too thin. It's kind of a medium weight, which makes it really nice to use, in the fact that the cards feel sturdy to shuffle, but I don't feel like they're going to bend or they're going to delaminate, excuse me, or anything like that. So so I think it's a good, you know, card stock's good and solid. There's loads of really good and interesting information in the book, in terms of spreads, and just, you know, if you want to know about the more typical Wheel of the Year anyway, it's full of good stuff. And it's really in depth and really, but it doesn't like waffle or anything like that. So it's quite accessible information, I think. Yeah, so overall, quite a positive feeling from this deck. I think it will be really interesting to do readings with this in terms of shadow work, and also to maybe do a reading alongside Rider-Waite-Smith and kind of see how I feel about it. I don't know what it's like in compared to, like, Golden Dawn or Toth or Benabel Wen's deck, which name temporarily escapes me. If you don't follow her channel, by the way, please do. It is amazing, and she posts some really interesting in-depth stuff. Like, she knows so much about tarot and different tarot systems. But yeah, so I don't know what it's like in compared to kind of other systems, but so I can only really compare it to RWS. But yeah, I really enjoy this deck. I really enjoy the feeling I get from this deck, and I'm really looking forward to using it. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I hope everybody's really well and you enjoyed this review. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down, you know, whatever. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Or leave me a comment, or just interact in some way. I love it when you guys interact with me and you kind of let me know your thoughts, or, you know, just how you're doing or anything like that. I really enjoy it and appreciate it. Also, this is a different environment today. I know normally I'm sat in front of my altar, but I felt like a little change, and since this is kind of my study space, if I am going to make more videos up here, I will decorate, because this is really boring. So, and I don't want you to get too bored just looking at whatever I'm waving at you or my face. So I'll try and if I do more, I'll try and make it prettier. Anyway, yeah, so I hope you're all doing really well, and I will see you in the next video, which I'm going to try and not leave it quite so long next time. Take care, bye bye.